Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel. Get ready for heart-touching stories. Don't forget to subscribe and let's begin.
Morning of my graduation began with the sound of my father's car engine turning over in the driveway. It was still early, the kind of quiet morning where the sun hasn't quite decided what kind of day it wants to be. I stood by the front window in my pressed shirt and borrowed tie, watching the sleek silver Mercedes gleam like something out of another life. My reflection hovered faintly in the glass, creased collar, nervous eyes, shoes polished to a shine that wouldn't last long. Behind me, my sister laughed. "You're going to wrinkle your clothes standing there," she said, breezing past me with the ease of someone who had never once worried about being late or forgotten or left behind. She didn't look at me when she picked up her handbag from the counter. She didn't need to. Everything in this house already leaned in her direction. "Are you ready?" my father called from outside. "For what?" I muttered under my breath, but I already knew the answer. The Mercedes wasn't just a car. It was a statement, polished, expensive, deliberate. My father had bought it for my sister 3 weeks earlier, presenting it with a flourish that felt rehearsed. "She deserves something special," he had said, handing her the keys while I stood a few feet away holding a stack of grocery bags. Top of her class, she hadn't been, not even close, but no one corrected him. I remembered smiling anyway. I had gotten good at that. "Come on," my sister said now, stepping into her heels. "We're going to be late," I asked. She frowned, as if I'd said something strange. "Dad and I, and me." She hesitated just long enough to answer the question without answering it. "You'll figure it out." I did. The bus stop sat 2 blocks away, right past the old bakery that closed down when I was 10. The bench was chipped, the schedule faded, and the metal pole leaned slightly to one side like it was tired of holding itself up. I checked the time on my phone. If I caught the next bus, I'd make it barely. The Mercedes pulled out of the driveway as I stepped onto the sidewalk. My father didn't look back. My sister didn't wave. The engine purred as they drove past me, the sun catching the car's polished surface so brightly it made me squint. For a moment, I thought they might stop. They didn't. The bus smelled like dust and old vinyl. The seats were worn in that way that told you hundreds of people had sat there before you, each carrying their own quiet stories. I took a seat near the back, careful not to crease my shirt too much. Across from me, an older woman smiled. "Big day," I nodded. "Graduation." "Well," she said, adjusting the scarf around her neck, "you should be proud." "I am," I replied, though the words felt heavier than they should have. She studied me for a second like she could see something I hadn't said. "Family meeting you there?" I hesitated. "Yeah," I said finally. "They're already on their way." The school was buzzing when I arrived. Families gathered in clusters, cameras flashing, laughter spilling into the air like it belonged there. Parents straightened collars, fixed hair, wiped imaginary dust from gowns. There was a kind of warmth to it, a shared pride that filled the space. I adjusted my tie and stepped through the gates alone. A voice called. It was Mark, one of the few people who had ever bothered to sit with me at lunch. "You made it." "Of course," I said. "Where's your family?" "Parking," I lied. He nodded, not pressing further. "Well, save them a seat. It's getting packed." The ceremony blurred into a series of speeches and applause. I sat in my row, hands folded, listening as names were called one by one. Each student walked across the stage to cheers that echoed through the hall, parents standing, clapping, shouting names like they were announcing victories. When my turn came, I stood. Daniel Hassan. The name sounded different through the microphone, bigger somehow. I walked across the stage, accepted my diploma, and shook the principal's hand. There was applause, polite. Scattered, I looked out into the crowd, rows of faces, cameras raised, people leaning forward, but not mine, not my father, not my sister, just a sea of strangers clapping out of habit. For a brief second, I imagined them there. My father standing with quiet pride, my sister smiling in that effortless way of hers. Then the moment passed and I stepped off the stage. After the ceremony, the courtyard filled with noise. Families hugged, took pictures, made plans for dinners and celebrations. Someone popped a bottle of something sparkling. Laughter rose and fell like waves. I stood at the edge of it all, diploma in hand. "Daniel," I turned. It was the woman from the bus. She waved as she made her way toward me, weaving through the crowd with surprising ease. "I told you I'd see you again," she said, beaming. "You came?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "Of course I did. Someone has to cheer for you." Before I could respond, she pulled me into a hug. It was quick, unexpected, and real. "Congratulations," she said, holding me at arm's length. "You did it." "You," I said, my voice quieter than I intended. She glanced around. "Where are your people?" "Busy," I replied. She nodded, not questioning it. "Well, they're lost." Took a picture together, she insisted. "Stand up straight," she said, adjusting my collar like she had known me my whole life. "They're perfect." A passerby snapped the photo. In it, I'm smiling, really smiling. For the first time that day, I walked home. It felt easier than taking the bus again. The sun was higher now, the heat settling into the pavement. My shoes scuffed against the sidewalk, the polish already fading. When I reached the house, the Mercedes was in the driveway. Of course it was. Inside, I could hear laughter. "And everyone kept looking at the car," my sister was saying as I stepped through the door. "It was honestly a little embarrassing," my father chuckled. "That's what happens when you drive something like that." They didn't notice me at first. When they did, it was my sister who spoke. She said, "You're back." "I graduated," I replied. "Of course you did," my father said, like it had been a given, like it hadn't mattered enough to attend. There was a pause. "Dinner's at 7," he added. "We're celebrating your sister." "For what?" He looked at me, mildly confused. "Her internship. Didn't she tell you?" She hadn't. That night, the restaurant was expensive. The kind of place where the menus didn't list prices and the waiters spoke in low, practiced tones. My sister sat beside my father, laughing softly as he recounted stories to people who seemed very interested in everything she had to say. I sat across from them, quiet. At some point, one of my father's colleagues turned to me. "And you, what are your plans?" "College," I said. "Impressive," he replied. "And how did you celebrate today?" I opened my mouth, closed it. "Took the bus," my sister said lightly, as if it were a joke. There was a ripple of polite laughter around the table. I didn't laugh. Later that night, back in my room, I placed my diploma on the desk. The house was quiet again, the echoes of the evening fading into something distant. I thought about the bus ride, the woman who had shown up when no one else had, the way the crowd had blurred when my name was called. I thought about the Mercedes, the dinner, the laughter. And then I thought about something else. The way it had felt to walk across that stage alone, not empty, not forgot, just mine. 3 years later, I would stand in another crowd, different city, different life. I would hold another piece of paper, this one heavier, harder earned, and this time, when my name was called, the applause would sound the same. But it wouldn't matter who was in the audience, because I would already know something I hadn't understood back then. Some journeys don't come with applause, some victories don't need witnesses. And some people, no matter how close they stand, were never meant to be part of your story in the way you once hoped. I still remember the bus, not as something I was forced to take, but as the place where I realized I could go anywhere, even if I had to get there on my own.